You've figured out your character's personality. Now it's time to decide what they look like.
So we talked about personality, and the overall concept of the character is being built with your background, your past and future. And now we're going to go into race. Is race important?
I mean, it's as important as any other leg of this journey that we're taking, in my opinion. If you're playing someone that is I know I've said this before, but battle hardened, you want that appearance, right? If you're from the mountains, from the woods, you're not going to come out in a bright gold trimmed purple coat, right, with shiny buttons. You're going to come out in skins, leathers, um, hand sewn clothes.
What about mechanically?
I, as the rules are written, no. As interacting with the world that you're in, absolutely. I think that has a huge impact. You're not going to walk directly into the king's court as a goblin and not have the guards stiffen at the very least.
Well, mechanically, there are traits.
There are, yes.
So some races have dark vision and some don't. Some races have a built in climb speed and some don't. So mechanically, there is definitely a consideration there that you should have when choosing race. If your personality comes from a place of the wilderness,
Sure.
what you were talking
Mm-hmm.
about, leathers and skins and
Mm-hmm.
whatnot, would you choose a race? Would any race apply there?
I think that any race can or could have been ostracized. They could have been sent on a quest to find themselves spiritually. I think that there are some races that need to prove themselves in the wilds, like you saw in Roman culture.
So we started with the personality of this character build. And it needs to develop from there so that you can then place together your background of sorts, your past, and how your character looks into the future. Logically, both in the player's handbook and in our process of building this character concept, race comes next. So, how do you choose a race?
So I think a lot of people start with racial features and try to get the best bang they can for their buck, right? Like which one gives me a feat? Which one gives me dark vision? In my opinion, you've really got to make sure that your race fits the story that you have written so far. Where's your character? Where did they come from? Who are they? Um, Otherwise, you have a line and you deviate from that and then come back. I think it's just as important as personality or class or anything else.
It's extremely important, obviously, but you do want it to fit the character concept that you're building. So it really comes down to, do you want to pick a race that helps you and benefits and complements where we're going next, which is into class? Or do you want to pick a race that really fits the mold of the story of the character that we've built up to this point? That part is basically up to you.
For my character, that's still unnamed, I said last episode that this was going to be a shy bard. I'm gonna go with half orc. It really fits the story that I have going and the personality. Um, and they're going to be on the smaller side. Not necessarily scrawny, but definitely enough to get picked on a little bit uh, coming up as an half orc in a orc community.
I'm going to go with half elf for similar reasons. Aswold, Pobblecott will be shunned in way from both elven society and human society for various reasons that we'll get into. Um, the character Oswald Cobblepot that becomes the penguin is shunned for appearance reasons, mostly. His father, basically said, I don't want this kid after looking at him for just a few seconds. There's going to be similarities in the character build that I'm going for. But that's not going to be the principle behind it. Um, so let's talk about appearance.
Right. So this is where I go into a lot of detail, creating a mini or a portrait or artwork for my character. I'm thinking I'm at least 6 inches shorter than all of my peers. Slightly blemished skin. Um, not as brawny and muscular uh, as those around him, but enough to keep up with the orcish society. Um, wasn't necessarily ostracized or kicked out. He was just always looked as less.
When a player chooses to begin to describe their character, they're describing the appearance. In many ways, you can describe even the mannerisms of that character.
Mannerisms to me are huge for role play. Whether you've got a tick, whether you've got a little gravel in your voice, whether you have a limp, all of those things can come into play when telling a story at the table.
With appearance, how do you structure that? A good way to do that is to consider your stats.
Stats and appearance, in my mind, go hand in hand. I just said I have a scrawny, less muscular half orc. That's going to be reflected when we get to the video talking about stats. Um, he had a little more time around books when no one was looking. That's going to come up in wisdom or intelligence. All this builds and culminates into a fully fledged character.
Could you just start with stats? Maybe you have a specific role from your DM, like 46 and drop the lowest. Or maybe you have the standard array. Could you just get your stats out of the way and then build the appearance for the character?
You can do anything you want. I don't recommend it. That is sort of shying away from where we're going with this whole process.
As we referred to in episode 1, understanding all of these things, getting them in your mind for how the character is going to operate, it's going to help you in role playing. And that's what we're here for. You want to have answers for situations that apply in the game at any given moment. And you want it to be comfortable for you to automatically refer back to what your character concept is when you're challenged with, do you attack or do you negotiate?
We've said this before and we'll say it again in future videos, but when we get done with this process, if you follow along, you're absolutely going to know.
100%. We are about a third of the way through the character creation process. We're developing a concept for your character, and our characters, Aswold and unnamed half orc, is going to begin to get put on paper or digital, whichever way we decide to go. You're going to see the speed of how that happens, though, once you have these pieces nailed down.
You can take as short as an hour, or you can take days ahead of your game, ahead of your session zero. But either way, it will all come to a head, and your character will be ready.
That's right. Session zero is a period of time that you and your DM get to discuss expectations, or at least it should be.
Like, subscribe, check the description for links. They will vary from video to video. But we hope to see you next time at Roleplay University.